What's up guys, and welcome to my Aventurine Waveflair build guide. In this video, I'm taking over everything you do need to know in order to understand and build him, including a full kit overview, Lightcone recommendations, Relic set recommendations, and planar ornaments, main sets you want to go for, and subsets to look out for. His basic attack does quantum damage based off his attack to a designated enemy. His skill does quantum damage based off his attack to all enemies and grants 4 punchline and 4 fervor. Ultimate does quantum damage equal to 400% of his attack to all enemies, gains 6 punchline and 8 fervor. And Aventurine speed is increased by 30% for 4 turns. His talent increases Aventurine certified banger by 1 turn. Teammate using an attack will give Aventurine a point of fervor and 1 punchline, with fervor capping at 30. Fervor reaching 10 points will make Aventurine use his regular elation skill, taking 20 punchline into account. After use, the next elation skill used by this unit in Aha Instant will become an enhanced elation skill. Aventurine having certified banger will make his skill additionally do 40% quantum elation damage to all enemies, and ultimate do 72% quantum elation damage to all enemies. His technique is an attacking one. Attack enemies to enter battle and do 100% of his attack to all enemies. Gives 2 points of fervor and 20 points of certified banger. Aventurine's regular elation skill does 60% quantum elation damage to all enemies, and additionally does 10 instances of damage, each doing 18% quantum elation damage to a random enemy. Then for the enhanced elation skill, it does the exact same effect with 60% quantum elation damage to all enemies, 10 instances of damage, and each doing 18% quantum elation damage to a random one. However, the enhanced one is able to consume all fervor upon use, with each fervor point consumed additionally doing 1 instance of 21% quantum elation damage to 1 random enemy. Then for his bonus traces, his A2 will increase his elation based off speed. Reaching 140 speed or higher increases this unit's elation by 30%, and then each excess speed will increase this unit's elation by 1%, with a maximum of 200 being taken into account. Then his A4 changes how he plays. At the start of the battle, if there is another elation character on the team besides Aventurine, all allies' elation increases by 20%, while Aventurine's additionally will increase by 80%. However, if Aventurine is the only elation character on the team, Aventurine's elation skill will be considered as launching a follow-up attack, and after a teammate uses an attack, Aventurine gains 2 points of certified banger and 1 punchline, and increases Aha speed by 25, with the speed boost lasting until the end of Aha Instant. And his A6 will be increasing his own crit damage by 48%. A teammate using basic attack, skill, follow-up attack, or ultimate will increase all allies' crit damage by 48% for 3 turns, and Aventurine additionally gets 2 points of fervor, with the effect triggering up to 6 times, and the trigger count resetting when he uses his skill. Finally, for his Eidolons, his E1 provides all-type respawn increased by 24% for Aventurine, and his talent will now be enhanced, letting fervor reaching 10/20/30 points, immediately letting him use his elation skill. His E2 increases the max limit of fervor to 50. Fervor reaching 40/50 points will also trigger the talent to use his elation skill, and after using an elation skill, additionally grants 4 points of fervor. His E4 will let everyone on the team ignore 18% of the target's defense for 3 turns when Aventurine uses his skill, and his E6 will merry make the elation damage dealt by Aventurine by 25%. Aventurine using his elation skill 2 times will now make all subsequent elation skills become the enhanced one, and when the enhanced elation skill is used outside of Aha Instant, it will not be consuming fervor. So you use 2 elation skills at the start of the battle, so those are going to be the regular ones, and then everything after that will actually be the enhanced one, even outside of Aha Instant. So once you reach 10, you'll use a regular one, then you use 20, and then a regular one, then 30, 40, 50, and anything after that is going to be enhanced, and those ones don't consume fervor, but the one in Aha Instant still does consume fervor. For Lightcones, of course, his best is going to be his own signature Lightcone, providing the wearer a 18% increase to crit rate, 24% increase to the wearer's speed when the wearer uses an elation skill as it grants them updraft. If the elation skill is different from the last elation skill used, additionally gains uptrend, which will increase the wearer's elation by 40%, and at the start of each wave or after the wearer uses their elation skill 3 times, it recovers 1 skill point. So it provides you basically anything that Aventurine would want. Crit rate to get you to 100%, as it helps a lot with building him. 24% speed, which is very, very good since he wants to be built really fast, and also a 40% elation increase as well. And Aventurine does have 2 elation skills, the regular one, and then during Aha Instant, the enhanced one. And there isn't a turn limit the moment you get the requirements done, so the first elation skill goes off really early, and then the first Aha Instant, you get the full 24% speed and 40% elation. And also at the very end, you do get an extra skill point when entering a new wave, or 3 elation skills, which also is going to be common, but on most of his teams, skill points aren't necessarily a problem, but it's neat if there's ever a time you do need that extra skill point. So there's that too. So far and none, his best one is his own signature. However, another really good option is the new A Little Getaway Lightcone as well. Increases the wearer's elation by 20% after the wearer uses an elation skill, ignores 8% of the target's defense. And at S5, it is a 40% increase to elation with 16% defense ignore for elation skill. So of course, the elation increase is going to be good as he is an elation character, and this 16% defense ignore specifically for his elation skill. Basically, all his damage is focused on that elation skill, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't impact his skill or ultimate, as those are not going to do much damage. Especially throughout the battle, basically all of his damage is his elation skill, so this getting a defense ignore for that actual elation skill is very helpful, especially on his teams because you run him with teammates that have a very high defense shred or ignore. New Summer Robin is able to provide a lot of ignore, Asheville, Blade, and then especially the Blade Bell team provides a bunch of shred in their kit, so that's why this is able to help you stack that even further. So if you are summoning for Summer Robin and her Lightcone specifically, you have a chance to get this. And this is a very, very good option for Aventurine. You can also use Silverwolf SP's Lightcone on him as well. Unfortunately, the last part is unusable, but you do get an 18% increase to the wearer speed and a 20% defense ignore for elation damage, which is actually quite helpful as we do know he scales off speed. And that extra defense ignore, just like I mentioned with the 4-star option, is going to be quite useful. And now it is 20%, which is higher than the 4-star one at S5. So speed increase and a good solid amount to his main source of damage being elation damage, as it is providing defense ignore. So you stack that with other forms of shred / ignore, it becomes that much more valuable, which is why her Lightcone is actually quite good on him. Other than that, you can use the Battle Pass Lightcone as well for 12% crit rate for the wearer, and the wearer using elation skill increases elation by 12%, stacking up to 2 times, as 20% for both values. So 20% crit rate and up to 40% elation increase when using elation skill, which you also would stack very quickly as he is using multiple elation skills throughout the battle. So this is also just a very, very nice increase because 40% elation is nice, plus the 20% crit rate does make him easier to build. So if you have a Battle Pass Lightcone for this specific one laying around, you can very much use this on him, especially if you don't have any of the other options I mentioned available. And finally, if you have none of those available, you can use the free-to-play Mushi Lightcone for a 12% increase to the wearer's elation, where using elation skill increases elation damage taken by all enemies by 6% for 2 turns, as 20% increase to the wearer's elation, 10% elation vulnerability for 2 turns. So, as I always mentioned, the 20% elation increase is going to be good as his main source of damage is all that, and you want to be increasing his elation as much as you can, and you also get a bit of vulnerability specifically for his elation damage. And if you're specifically running him on an elation team, you can run this Lightcone on multiple characters, which is why it is valuable, and he would be able to always have this up as he's using his elation skill so many times. So this would be your free-to-play option if you don't have any of the other options available. For relic sets, there are primarily 2 options available. Overall, the most common one is going to be 4-piece Ever Glorious with a 16% increase to the wearer's crit damage, and the 4-piece provides 10% defense ignore for elation damage dealt by the wearer. Every 5 accumulated punchline allies gain elation damage dealt will ignore an additional 1% of the target's defense, stacking up to 10 times. So 4-piece provides up to 20% defense ignore specifically for elation damage, which, as I've already mentioned, constant amount of times, is his main source of damage. And then the 2-piece just increases anytime you do crit. Since defense stacking, or defense ignore / shred, is very prevalent on his teams, that's why this is actually quite valuable, and is overall going to be the best in slot as this helps you push that up to even higher values. However, specifically for anyone running a specific E4 plus Aventurine on a team where you have Bladeville or a combination of one of them with Summer Robin, in that case, you wouldn't actually run 4-piece Ever Glorious anymore, and instead would run 4-piece Diviner. 2-piece provides 6% speed, 4-piece, if before entering combat the wearer speed is greater than 120/160, where it gets 10%/18% crit rate, and the wearer using elation skill for the first time in battle increases everyone's elation by 10% and does not stack. So this actually does outperform Ever Glorious, specifically if you have an E4 plus Aventurine on that team combination, as I mentioned, with Bladeville, or one of them alongside Summer Robin, mainly Asheville, since Mortanix Blade's defense shred value is a bit less, but Diviner for those higher investments is going to be the play, since Ever Glorious isn't able to get the full effect and a lot of it is going to be wasted, while the 4-piece here lets you build them better and also provides a bit of speed and an elation increase that you wouldn't usually get specifically on non-elation teams, because on elation teams it is most likely that your Yagwang is using this, so it's not as effective. So specifically for those teams I mentioned, so Bladeville, where no one's going to be holding this, you'd want to run 4-piece Diviner if you do specifically have E4 plus Aventurine. I cannot keep stressing that, specifically for E4 plus Aventurine to have that extra defense ignore / shred that is provided. That's kind of your only two options as of now. Thankfully, they both are in the same cavern, so it's quite efficient. Even if you don't have an E4 plus Aventurine, you still can use 4-piece Diviner. It's just worse than Everglorious if you don't have E4 plus Aventurine on that Blade Veil team. But yeah, if you do have E4 plus, it is better. Other than that, if you need a temporary set, just run 2-piece speed, 2-piece speed. So 2-piece Diviner, 2-piece Warrior Goddess, 2-piece Relieve the Ordeal, or 2-piece Hackerspace. Or combine any of those with one of the crit sets. So if you need crit rate, you can do 2-piece Scholar or 2-piece World Remaking. And if you need crit damage, 2-piece Wave Strider or 2-piece Everglorious. And then for planar ornaments, really the only one you can use is Punk Lord for 8% increase to the wearer's Elation. Elation reaching 40%/80% for the first time in combat increases the wearer's crit damage by 20%/32%. So you get an extra Elation increase and then a requirement to gain crit damage. This is kind of the only thing that complements his playstyle, as there's not really anything else besides speed that you can run, while this one is made for Elation DPS, as it does provide Elation and also up to 32% crit damage. So this would be his best in slot regardless if you hit the biggest requirements, which of course you usually will be, and you want to aim for getting the full requirement here. But this would be the best. The only other option you would have is to run one of the sets that provides 6% speed. So you can run either Forge or Giant Tree, but that's very temporary. You want to replace that with Punk Lord as soon as possible. So if you are farming for Punk Lord, you can run one of those two, as that's going to be your only options. So do keep that in mind. Those are strictly cope options. For the main stats on the relics, for the body, you want to run crit rate or crit damage corresponding to which one you need more, but that's usually always going to be crit rate. For the feet, you want to run speed. For the orb, you can quite literally run anything. Attack percent is technically the best, but it's very, very marginal, so don't really look out for it specifically. And if you are running him with the new Summer Robin, you cannot run attack orb, otherwise it's going to mess up how Summer Robin's buff works and give him the attack buff instead of the crit damage, which is far worse. So when you are running him without Summer Robin, you can run Attack Orb or just really anything. And then with Summer Robin, run anything that isn't an Attack Orb. But regardless, just aim for something like HP or defense. It's going to be better, especially if you're running Sustainless, but it's just not really much of a difference if you aim for attack or not. And then specifically with Summer Robin, as I mentioned, you don't want to run Attack Orb at all. And for the link rope, you want energy regen rate. For the substats, you are focusing on speed, crit rate, crit damage, and that is it. Speed, you want to get as high as you possibly can. Getting to around 160 to 170 is going to be good. If you can get it higher than that, then that's going to be even better. Do remember, the more speed you get, the further his elation increase it does become thanks to his A2. You just need to be above 140 to get the extra speed going, but that should not be a problem, and you're going to want much more than that anyways. So ideally getting around 160 to 170, and any more of that will be good. Crit rate, as per usual, like any other DPS, you want to get 100% crit rate. If you're running the Diviner set, do remember it gives 18%, so you would need a total of 82% crit rate outside of battle to be 100% in battle with the Diviner requirements fulfilled. But for anyone else, you are aiming for that 100% outside of battle, otherwise you won't have the full crit rate in battle. Although if you are running someone on the team that provides some crit rate, then take that into account. And then crit damage, you just get that as high as possible. There isn't necessarily a limit. Speed and crit rate to 100% is a lot more priority than crit damage. He does give himself 48% for free, an additional 48%. So do keep that in mind. The speed focus and also the crit rate focus to 100% is going to be much more valuable than focusing on crit damage. But when you are looking at your crit damage, just get it as high as you can. Having around 130% is going to be fine, but if you can get it further than that, then of course that's the better. So once again, speed around 160 to 170, regardless of the build. Just get it as high as you possibly can. Ideally, you're able to reach 200 in battle to get the full 3 turns in the first MLC cycle or whatever, because that's going to net you the best results. But as long as you can get a high amount of speed, it's going to be fine. That's the main priority. Then crit rate to 100%, as you don't want to miss any crits. Then you would focus on any amount of crit damage you can possibly get. And that is the full Aventurine Waveflair build guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the tips and style content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.